Welcome back to the Deep State. I'm Nick Hawks. And on today's show, we've got Jesse Berger, the founding community member over at Packet. This episode is presented by 𝐒𝐮𝐻. 𝐒𝐮𝐻 is building Ethereum's fastest layer 2, powered by the Solana virtual machine. 𝐒𝐮𝐻 combines Solana's performance and scalability with Ethereum's security to get the best of both worlds. You can read more about 𝐒𝐮𝐻 over at 𝐒𝐮𝐻.builders. We'll have a little bit more on them later in the show. Before we get started, make sure you hit the link, subscribe, notification, all the bell stuff. Make sure that we can keep bringing great guests like Jesse onto you. Jesse, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I'm excited to have you on. So it's PKT Packet. Let's assume that people haven't heard of this before. I know you guys are pretty old school. You've been around since before DePIN was DePIN, but tell me what the thing is and what it's doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Packet is a fully decentralized open source blockchain project. It's a lot of words, but in essence, the focus of the project is making internet access more accessible around the world. And the DePIN aspect of it is creating an economic incentive for people who have internet access to extend that online access into their local communities.
Got it. And then how does that work? Do I buy some fancy miner from a centralized entity, or how does the whole thing work?
Actually, the project is, again, completely decentralized. So there's a couple different ways to participate. The easiest way to participate is there's free to use software called PKT Crypt. It's a mining algorithm. Essentially, you can download it on any computer. It's completely permissionless. So you can, really put it on even a low powered device. And by operating that technology, you will get paid by the blockchain every 60 seconds. So that's the lowest barrier to entry. And then as far as internet sharing or extending internet access, again, there is an open source software that's called CJ DNS. It is a peer-to-peer decentralized web, internet infrastructure technology. Essentially, anybody can install it on virtually any computer. And then if you're focused on sharing the internet access, of course, you'll need some sort of antenna technology. And there's a few projects within the ecosystem that are making those types of antennas available and selling them to people. But, you could go and buy one from Amazon, for instance, and set it up that way.
Got it. Okay, so I have my computer at home. I run Packet stuff on that. And then if I want to put my phone or a laptop, or my neighbor wants to drive by and pick up internet, am I kind of rebroadcasting that over Wi-Fi, or is it using something else? What does it
Yeah,
look like?
absolutely. It is a Wi-Fi network using mesh networking technology. So again, some of the vernacular is kind of intense to talk about, but for anybody who's savvy in the DePIN space, I mean, literally, it's as basic as it gets. You're just broadcasting a Wi-Fi signal into your local area and using high-powered antennas. I mean, you can extend that very, very far in terms of range. There is a company in the ecosystem called Rowdy that's selling an antenna that extends up to 10,000 square feet. And then you can daisy chain those antennas together and you can build pretty, wide range coverage that way. And then there's people in the community that are, buying antennas, Ubiquiti antennas, or, really any third party software and hardware, and extending mesh networks that way.
Okay. Cool. Super cool. So for a lot of folks in DePIN, which really, it's funny as it sounds, DePIN is kind of Helium built this community and then went on and a bunch of these other projects came there. But you guys are actually pretty early kicking off. So the CJ, what is it, DNS? Started in 2010, yes. And then you guys came around August 2019. So you've been in the game for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. And the lead Packet developer, his name's 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐬𝐚𝐫𝐲. He's actually the inventor of CJ DNS. So he's been doing this for, at this point, going on 14 years, 15 years. He's a mesh networking expert, a cryptographer, security analyst. And so with CJ DNS, which launched all those years ago, it was revered as this novel mesh networking technology, but it was just super early. And the novelty of it, there's a lot of people who run that technology, was one part of it, but it's like, how do you expand such a, incredible tool and networks like CJ DNS? And that's where the idea for PKT came in, which was what if we could build an economic incentive for people to extend these CJ DNS nodes around the world? And so that was really the catalyst to get that built. And the blockchain launched in August 2019, and it's been humming along ever since.
Got it. And the blockchain story is kind of cool. You're telling me a little bit about it. Is when I asked you like what layer or what blockchain are you on, you're like, oh, we're running our own. So walk me through kind of what that is, and maybe a little bit of the ethos behind the decentralization really push at Packet.
Yeah, look, Caleb is an early Bitcoiner. He was there very, very early on, so you could say he's a purist in a lot of ways. The Packet blockchain is actually a clone of the Bitcoin codebase. So the change was the proof of work. And in creating the unique proof of work for PKT was requiring both CPU power, which is used to encrypt the network, and then bandwidth, which is physically need bandwidth to build an edge network. And so this novel proof of work uses both. And as far as the launch of the cryptocurrency itself, that was completely fair mine, open launch, same principles of Bitcoin. So there's no company, there's no DAO, there's no foundation, there's no CEO, there's absolutely no equity investors, there's no founder shares or investor shares. It's literally fair mine. And, the people who were there early have been obviously, there since the beginning. And there's still plenty of room. People are coming in every single day and participating. And as the blockchain gains more notoriety, a lot of opportunity for people to get involved.
Love it. Love it. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Let's take a quick break to talk about today's sponsor, eclipse Labs. One of the cool parts about doing this show is we talk to tons of projects across the space, including back-end nerdy stuff that helps deepen projects. One of those is today's show sponsor, eclipse Labs, who's building Ethereum's fastest layer 2 to support several deepen projects. Eclipse leverages the best parts of the modular stack, Solana for execution, Celestia for scalability, and Ethereum for security. Eclipse is committed to helping projects build on DePIN. Check them out at eclipse.builders and check out the interview we did with Neil at Eclipse if you haven't seen it yet. So, Ripping Jesse, let's talk a little bit now about companies or businesses that might be working with or on Packet. One of them is yours, is Rowdy. You're the CEO there. Walk me through what Rowdy does and then how you guys are using Packet.
Yeah, it's a great question. So because Packet is a fully decentralized blockchain project and all the technology is open source, it requires community developers to get involved to make it a reality. And we realized that if you're building a blockchain project that literally doesn't have a bank account, it's like, how do you grow that community? How do you get developers who obviously need to be paid to participate? And so my brother Josh, my other brother Jeremy, both last name Berger, and Caleb got together and focused on, okay, how could we build a for-profit business that could both be a supporter of the Packet project, but also fundamentally use the Packet technology, within our use case in growing a company. And so what we came up with was a guest Wi-Fi solution that's basically helping businesses offer guest Wi-Fi, and ultimately that technology uses the Packet network for both privacy routing, uses a VPN, underlying VPN network, and there's a bunch of other elements within the hardware that we sell that both benefit the Packet network as well as even utilize the Packet cryptocurrency for various service purchases and other parts of the ecosystem. So it's really been synergistic. And then as our company's generating revenue, we can both underscore those efforts by having our developers contribute to the Packet project, and ultimately we become major cheerleaders, both by contributing marketing resources and evangelizing the project.
Dig it. So you guys are using it and building it at the same time. I like it.
Yeah, indeed. And there's a bunch of other companies and projects within the ecosystem of Packet, that are contributors, incredible community members building apps, software, tools, etc. So it's just been really rewarding to watch the ecosystem blossom and and seeing, these incredible contributors. Again, it's all open source, so you can see people, coming in, staying there, and also generating revenue, making money within the ecosystem. And I think that's what is a good testament for, a healthy ecosystem, is when, anybody can contribute and when there's money to be made.
Cool. Have you got any favorites? Anywhere that we should look at and check them out outside of Rowdy?
Yeah, indeed. There's a few projects. There's a project called PacketNet. They are a company that's making, and foundation, I should say, that's making contributions to the project. There's another project called Packet World. They've been building wallet technology. They run one of the biggest pools in the ecosystem as well. And there's another community member named Packet Watch, who's been building, again, tools and software within the ecosystem. That's been really, really great. Some of the best stuff that I've seen coming out of the project.
Cool. Super cool. Well, we'll have to check all those out. One of the
Indeed.
things that we're seeing in the DePIN space, especially in these wireless protocol projects, is this ability to multi-mine. So you have, project 1, project 2, project 3, whatever it is. Is that something I can do with Packet if I'm running, not Pollen anymore because they're gone, but if I'm running Helium or any of these other different wireless protocols, can I also run Packet on the same thing, use the same equipment?
Indeed. I mean, it depends. Obviously, Helium is, relatively permission based from my understanding of it. So you need to buy their hardware to be able to participate in that blockchain. And I find that a lot of DePIN projects do have specialized hardware, permission based hardware.
Sure.
But in terms of PKT, again, any computer that you can install stuff onto it, you can literally install the Packet Crypt software and mine. So if you're running multiple other DePIN projects off of that particular server machine, then yeah, there's absolutely nothing prohibiting you from multi-mining and generating revenue is in any way you want. I would say the one caveat is, obviously, Packet Crypt is a CPU and bandwidth based mining algorithm. So if you're allocating CPU cores to another project, obviously your yields are going to be down as a result. But Packet Crypt rewards high bandwidth and high CPU, so you're definitely incentivized to throw as many CPU cores and as much bandwidth as you possibly can at the network. And at this point, we have not seen an upper bound. I don't think you'll ever see an upper bound in terms of mining. So that's pretty rewarding to watch. The community miners, focused on optimizing yields, and we've seen people make tens of millions of dollars off of mining within the Packet network over the years. So it's been a pretty exciting project to watch. And I literally would say this, with all my heart, this is literally just the beginning.
Cool. Super cool, man. That's exciting. Are you seeing different parts of the world being like more stoked about Packet or being better for different places than others, or does it not
Yeah.
really matter?
Yeah, it's a great question. We actually been researching it. So at this point, from what we can tell, it's being mined on 6 out of the 7 continents.
Mhm.
There is, I would say, focuses around Europe and North America. We've been seeing, a lot of hotspots in those areas. There's some burgeoning, people coming into the community in Southeast Asia, and some miners in Singapore, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam. But yeah, it's still very early on in our estimations. And so, unlike a project like Helium that raised $250 million and got to kick it off with a lot of marketing and stuff like that, this project has had humble beginnings because again, doesn't have a bank account. There's no central investors that are throwing down tens of millions of dollars, giving it a war chest to run ads on CoinMarketCap. So as a result, it's had to build a grassroots, following. And as people find out about it, especially as there's money to be made, word of mouth builds awareness. And so we've started to see more people, coming into the community now that we're, all enjoying the markets beginning to heat up again. Pretty much the peak of Packet, up until this point was about 18 months ago when everyone was, in a sense of market euphoria. But
Yep.
when everything starts heating up back in 2024, we anticipate a lot of excitement to emerge around this project, and especially since one of the biggest narratives, that I'm seeing for 2024 is going to be around DePIN, and being that
Yeah.
Packet is, so well substantiated in that narrative, I think it's going to have a very successful run next year.
Yeah. It's always exciting to see where these things go. Super cool to see you guys been around early on and that you're continuing to build through the winter and hopefully into this ripping spring that's coming. Cool.
Absolutely. And I
Jesse,
think that's the key.
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's the key is like, you got to build during the bear market, and, the bull market is where you get to bear the fruit. So that's what we did. We've been keeping our heads down, making it happen, even when the price is low and the markets are down. And we're excited to, now come out swinging with new wallets, new technology, new website, etc. So it's a great time to learn about the project.
Love it. Love it. Well, hopefully in 2024, we'll see Antarctica gets its first packet miner. Would be awesome.
Exactly.
So, dude,
I love that.
thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for making the time to tell us about this, and looking forward to having you back on as you have updates.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great one.